Researchers at Harvard just released something that stopped a lot of people mid-scroll. They found that the single greatest predictor of a long, healthy, fulfilling life isn't diet, it isn't exercise, it isn't even genetics, it's the quality of your relationships. And yet here you are, quietly removing people. Not dramatically, not with a confrontation or a final message, just slowly, deliberately choosing distance. The strangest part? You feel fine. Better than fine, actually. You feel like you can finally breathe. So what does that say about you? There was a version of you that tried, really tried. You were the one who checked in first. The one who remembered everyone's bad days, anniversaries, their crises. You were the person people leaned on, sometimes so hard you forgot what it felt like to stand up straight. You gave your time, you gave your energy, you gave your presence, even when you had nothing left to give. And most of the time, people took it without even noticing the cost to you, until something in you got very, very quiet. Not sad, not angry, just done. Here is what psychology actually says about that moment. Dr. Elaine Aron spent decades researching what she called the highly sensitive person, someone whose nervous system processes emotional information more deeply than most. These are the people who absorb the energy in a room, who feel the weight of other people's moods like it's their own, who give until giving becomes a kind of slow erosion. When that system gets overwhelmed enough, something shifts. Neuroscientists call it emotional detachment as a regulatory response. Your brain, trying to protect you, creates distance. Not because you stopped caring, because you cared so much for so long that your mind finally drew a line. Here is where it gets layered, because that response didn't appear out of nowhere. For a lot of people it was practiced, quietly, over years, starting much earlier than they realize. Maybe you grew up in a house where emotions were unpredictable, where the energy changed without warning, and you learned to read the room before you could read the clock. Psychologist John Bowlby called it the avoidant attachment pattern. When children learn that reaching out doesn't reliably bring comfort, stop reaching. They turn inward. They become self-sufficient in a way that looks like strength but started as a necessity. And now that same instinct shows up when someone pushes too close, when someone takes too much, when the dynamic starts to feel familiar in a way that sets off something quiet and ancient inside you. You don't panic, you just leave, slowly, completely, without looking back. Here is the part most people get wrong about this. They assume that pulling away means you're broken. The absence of a wide social circle means something is missing in you. But there is a critical distinction that rarely gets talked about, is a difference between isolation and intention. Isolation is sitting alone, wishing things were different. Intention is choosing your space because it is where you actually function. Loneliness is painful. Solitude, real solitude, is something you protect. Research published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology found that people who score high in what's called need for cognition, genuine desire to think deeply and process experience, consistently prefer fewer, higher quality social connections. Not because they are damaged. Because they are oriented differently, they require depth. Small talk feels like noise. Surface-level relationships feel like effort with no return. Is not a disorder, that is a type. And here is what your pattern of pulling back actually reveals about how your mind works. You are not impulsive about it. You don't cut people off after one bad day. You watch. You give chances, sometimes more than you should. You are also cataloging. Every time someone shows you who they are, you file it. Every broken promise, every one-sided conversation, every moment you left an interaction feeling emptier than when you arrived. Your threshold is high, but once it's crossed, it's crossed. Precision, that patience followed by clarity, is not coldness. It is discernment. There's a difference. Here is what's worth sitting with, because this isn't all clean and uncomplicated. The same walls that protect you from the people who drain you can sometimes keep out the ones who wouldn't. Nervous system that learned to treat closeness as risk doesn't always distinguish between a threat and an opportunity. It just recognizes the pattern and responds. So the question isn't whether your instincts are valid. They are. The question is whether your past is making decisions that belong to your present. Because you have changed. You are not the person who needed those defenses the way you once did. And some of the people you might be holding at a distance, they might actually be safe. They might actually be worth it. The Harvard study didn't say you need many people. It said you need the right ones. People who make you feel more like yourself, not less. People whose presence adds something instead of subtracting it. People who know how to show up and do. Your circle being small is not the problem. Your circle being empty is. So if you are watching this and something about it landed, I want you to ask yourself one honest question. Is the quiet around you chosen, or is it just what's left? There is a version of this that is peace. And there is a version that is loneliness, wearing the mask of independence. Only you know which one you're actually living. And if this gave you language for something you've been carrying quietly, leave a comment below. You might be more understood than you think.